p.m.
Look at the size of that.
Jamie's playing with meat.
Easy now.
It's cooking so easy, it's embarrassing.
This is the most tacky thing I've ever made. How's that egg white going, Raffaelli? Yeah, that's good.
Pakataka, tomorrow on 1.
Well, big changes at TVNZ, big changes to the structure of the company, clearing the way for the introduction of its charter, which will affect what we see on screen. No longer will it be an SOE with clear commercial imperatives focused on making money. Today, after months of debate, the government announced TVNZ will become a Crown-owned company, focusing more on providing public interest broadcasting. How, though, will that affect what we see on screen? In Wellington, the Broadcasting Minister, Holmes, and National's Murray McCully, who says the government is killing the cash cow. Good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Hello.
Minister, a feeling that finally today you are starting to make some progress after months and months?
Yes, I do feel like that. I think it's at long last some clarity. State-owned enterprise means that you have to be the very best competitor there is. And really what is of interest is what's on the balance sheet. But today with a Crown-owned company, we said it's more than the balance sheet we're interested in. We're interested in what the people want to see on television, and that's of prime importance.
When do we start to see some change?
I think you've already begun to see some change. I think Television New Zealand has actually been working on some of those changes. But I also think that in terms of full implementation of the Charter, it won't start to be implemented properly until 1st of July next year. That's 2002.
And then a gradual process going on for how long?
Gradual process. I think Michael Cullen said it really well today when he said, when will it be fully implemented? Well, how long is a piece of string? I mean, Radio New Zealand has a charter. It's always changing, it's always challenging, because it's meeting the needs of a diverse and growing population with different interests all the time.
Minister, I looked at the schedule for TV1 tonight. I mean, it's Corro Street after this, Documentary New Zealand after that, Teachers, which is a British drama, which may appeal to you after that, and Late Edition. And I just sort of thought, how much difference will we see once the charter's in place?
I don't think that you'll necessarily notice all that much difference. I think you'll see some differences that will occur, but all those programs will be perfectly acceptable. The kind of story that I've used with a couple of reporters is probably illustrates where there could be some change. You may remember a really good program called Duggan. A lot of people liked it. It had high ratings, but its highest ratings were with people over aged 55, and so it never went to a second series because they said people over 55 don't necessarily pull the advertisers that we need. Now that's just a slight difference, that sometimes you might take that risk to put on something that people who are older might really want to see.
I think also the issue with New Zealand drama like that, and I'm not disputing the quality of it, is the cost. It's enormously expensive to make. I believe the cost of something like an hour may well be $1 million mark.
Absolutely right, and that wasn't the only reason around Duggan, but one of the reasons given to me actually at the time was because it was that age audience. And this is what we're saying is, regardless of age of audience, regardless of where people live, sometimes, not round the clock, we'll meet those diverse needs and sometimes at extra cost.
Murray McCully, I need to bring you in here. I mean, it all sounds very reasonable. BCL, the artery of TVNZ, stays within the TVNZ group of companies. It's about considering different interests. Sounds okay.
Yeah, well, I think today's announcement is going to add to the woes of an organisation that's already got plenty of problems. This is a company, an SOE, that made a profit of $69 million last year. It's now looking around for cost savings to try and get back into profit because it's already moved into loss mode. Now, I think the directors who take over the new company are going to be given mission impossible to undertake in many ways. But I think the other big issue here is that there's a new yardstick being imposed which hasn't been imposed before. It's not just going to be a commercial yardstick that measures the success of TVNZ. There's going to be the issue of whether it complies with the government's social requirements. And when ministers and officials start getting into that territory, I think it's a very thin line between that and political interference.
Minister, well, yes, there is a clause, I believe, in the current legislation which prevents political interference in programming and news and current affairs. Will we see a similar clause in the new arrangements?
And if you have a look at the Radio New Zealand Act, which is also a Crown-owned company, it actually has inside its act a clause which says that ministers have to act consistently with the Charter. And as the Charter of Television New Zealand has quite clearly about editorial integrity and the right for the company to do the programming according to the Charter. I never, as Minister responsible for Radio New Zealand, tell them how to program. I never, ever tell them what stories to put on the news. In fact, I don't talk to Radio New Zealand. I only talk to the chair of the board.
Look, I don't
And
think
that's what will be the same for television.
you can't compare Radio New Zealand with, or national radio with TVNZ. You're looking at a radio station that barely gets 10% of the audience. We're talking about 75% of the television viewers in the country here. And
No,
what
Murray.
my concern about this is quite simple, that you've got a minister who's not just saying we're going to measure how you achieve your results commercially. The minister's saying I and my officials are going to measure whether you are complying with the public interest provision that is newly going to be added to the statute that,
So-
that the government's going to pass.
Minister, how do you...
It's